Hello and welcome back. In our lecture series on philosophy of mind, we are starting with yet another topic today, and the name of the topic is entitled as the role of artificial intelligence in understanding cognition. Recent advances in philosophy of mind are intersecting strongly with cognitive neuroscience and artificial intelligence, leading to fresh debates and research areas. We will try to cover in today's topic the nature of consciousness, structure of perceptual experience, and the integration of cognitive processes vis-a-vis AI. Firstly, we have to understand the modularity of mind and perception action links. There is a renewed interest in understanding the brain's modularity with discussions around how specialized mental modules might work together. For example, some researchers focus on the interplay between sensory perception and motor actions, arguing for a more enactive view of perception, where the mind actively constructs perception based on the interaction with its environment rather than passively receiving data. This perspective challenges traditional representational views of cognition. The second one, consciousness and phenomenal concepts. The study of consciousness continues to explore the limits of physicalist explanations. Some philosophers argue that anti-physicalist intuitions, the belief that consciousness cannot be fully explained by our physical processes alone, may be rooted in our cognitive structure and phenomenal concepts rather than indicating a true metaphysical divide. This argument builds on the notion that consciousness might be an emergent property of complex neural processes, even as debates around its fundamental nature persists. If we go ahead, we will see that the applications in neurotechnology and neuromodulation is of rage nowadays. Advancements in brain-computer interfaces and neurostimulation are influencing philosophy, especially in exploring mind-brain interactions and ethical considerations around brain enhancement. For instance, neurostimulation treatments for mental health are raising questions about the self and agency, as treatments might alter emotional states or personality in profound ways. These technologies push philosophers to rethink personal identity and autonomy in light of such potentially transformative interventions. We cannot, of course, deny the role of AI in understanding cognition. AI models, particularly in machine learning, are contributing to philosophical debates on human-like cognition. Researchers are examining whether AI can truly understand or if it merely replicates patterns, questioning the role of AI in simulating or even replicating consciousness. This discussion connects with long-standing philosophical issues around the Chinese room thought experiment and symbolic versus connectionist models of intelligence. We will now be exploring the do's and don'ts of AI. To begin with, what is an AI? Artificial intelligence, or AI, is the field of computer science dedicated to creating systems that can perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence. These tasks include reasoning, learning, problem solving, perception, and language understanding. AI encompasses a range of approaches from symbolic reasoning and rule-based systems to modern techniques like machine learning and neural networks. Now, we will be going ahead with a breakdown of AI's core components and approaches. The first one is the rule-based and symbolic AI. Early AI systems used logical rules and symbols to simulate reasoning. For example, expert systems in the 1970s and 1980s utilized coded rules to emulate human expertise in specific areas such as medical diagnosis. However, these systems struggled with complexity and flexibility as they relied on predefined rules that were difficult to scale. Going ahead, we will see that today AI is largely driven by machine learning, where algorithms learn from data rather than relying on explicit programming. Neural networks inspired by the brain's structure are central to this approach, particularly deep learning, which uses multiple layers to recognize patterns in large data sheets. Applications range from image recognition and natural language processing to recommendation systems. We will now be discussing about the various types of AI, and broadly when we talk about artificial intelligence, we can categorize it into narrow AI or weak AI. So what is this narrow AI? AI systems designed for a specific task such as Siri or recommendation algorithms, they do not have general intelligence and cannot operate outside of their programmed parameters. General AI or strong AI, on the other hand, is a theoretical AI with the ability to understand, learn and apply intelligence across a broad range of tasks, similar to human cognition. Although an area of active research, general AI remains largely speculative and is not yet realized completely. Now comes the question of philosophical and ethical dimension vis-a-vis AI. AI raises fundamental questions about consciousness, understanding and ethics. Philosophers like John Searle and David Chalmers have explored whether AI could ever achieve consciousness or if it simply mimics behavior. Additionally, ethical issues like privacy, job displacement, and AI governance are crucial areas of focus as AI becomes more integrated into society. So AI, as we understand, continues to evolve, and as it advances, so do discussions about its potential, limitations and impact on human life. For further reading, we can definitely explore the resources like AI, a modern approach by Russell and Norvig. The exploration of AI and its potential for understanding cognition began in earnest with the advent of computing theory and philosophical questions about the mind and intelligence. The key initiators of this area were early computing theorists and philosophers like Alan Turing and Warren McCulloch. With Turing's 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, laying the groundwork for discussions on artificial intelligence and cognition. Alan Turing and the Turing test are the hallmarks when we talk about the genesis of AI vis-a-vis philosophical discourse. Turing's seminal idea was the Turing test, which proposed that a machine could be deemed intelligent if it could convincingly simulate human-like conversation to the extent that a human could not distinguish it from another human. Turing's approach focused on behavior as the criterion for intelligence, sidestepping the need for the machine to possess human-like conscious experience. His work thus created a basis for functionalism in the philosophy of mind, which argues that mental states are defined by their functions and effects rather than by their internal composition. Early cybernetics and functionalism that follows from Turing are Warren McCulloch and Walter Pates, who was influenced by cybernetics and neuroscience, posited that neural networks could, in principle, model brain functions. This work encouraged the idea that computational systems could simulate the structure and functions of human cognition, leading to a view of cognition as information processing. This definitely had marked a shift towards seeing cognition as something that might be replicable through computational means. After Alan Turing's groundbreaking work, if there is this other philosopher whose name is taken with equal reverence in the world of AI and philosophy of mind, that is John Searle. John Searle's Chinese Rome argument had become an overnight sensation. In 1980, John Searle critiqued Turing's behavioral criteria for intelligence with his Chinese Rome argument. Searle argued that a machine manipulating symbols, syntax, could simulate language processing without any real understanding, semantics. This sparked a long-standing debate over whether computational processes alone could ever achieve strong AI which entails genuine understanding or consciousness. Searle's argument promoted a deeper investigation into the nature of understanding and the difference between simulation and real mental states. Now, when we talk about the evolution of AI models and the shift to connectionism, we have to go back to the 80s and 90s. As AI research evolved in the 1980s and 1990s, there was a shift towards connectionism, which uses artificial neural networks that simulate certain aspects of brain processing. This approach drew from cognitive science and philosophy, arguing that cognition could emerge from networks that processes information in ways similar to the brain. Connectionist models, unlike symbolic AI, aligned better with human neural processing and contributed to the debates on how intelligence might arise from complex, distributed processes rather than rule-based systems alone. Now, if we have a glance at some of the recent developments in embodied cognition, we will see that today newer theories in philosophy of mind, such as embodied cognition and enactivism, suggest that understanding arises not just from abstract processing, but from an embodied interaction with the environment. These theories argue that cognition is shaped by our physical interactions and context, adding complexity to AI's potential to truly understand or cognize as humans do. We will further be discussing the contemporary AI and the hard problem of consciousness. And more recently, philosophers like David Chalmers have brought discussions of consciousness and the hard problem into AI research. Chalmers argues that even if machines could mimic behavior perfectly, this does not imply they would possess subjective experiences. This aligns with questions raised by Searle's Chinese Rome argument, but is now grounded in debates about the nature of consciousness and its possible emergence from physical systems. So, what is this we have been talking about? To quickly repeat, while the Turing set the stage for thinking of intelligence as behavioral output, Searle's critiques and subsequent cognitive and neural theories introduced deeper questions about consciousness and the inner workings of cognition, which continue to shape discussions around AI and cognition in philosophy of mind today. The exploration of AI and its potential for understanding cognition began in earnest with the advent of computing theory and philosophical questions about the mind and intelligence. The key initiators in this area were early computing theorists and philosophers like Alan Turing, Warren McCulloch, with Turing's 1950 paper, Computing Machinery and Intelligence, which definitely had laid the groundwork for discussions on AI and cognition. Now, we will be comparing and contrasting Alan Turing with Searle, but before that, let us get into the depth of what is this Turing machine all about and why did Alan Turing even come up with this module. Turing's seminal idea was the Turing test, which proposed that a machine could be deemed intelligent if it could convincingly simulate human-like conversation to the extent that a human could not distinguish it from another human. Turing's approach focused on behavior as the correction or the criterion for intelligence, sidestepping the need for the machine to possess human-like conscious experience. His work thus created a basis for functionalism in philosophy of mind, which argues that mental states are defined by their functions and effects rather than by their internal compositions. And this sets the ball rolling for the school of functionalism. We also have to note, which we had discussed, about the recent developments, the contemporary AI and the hard problem of consciousness floated by David Chalmers. We were now good to discuss the Chinese room arguments versus the Turing machine test, a comparison and a contrast between the two. The Chinese room argument, or CRA as it will be referred from now on, and the Turing test both explore the question of whether machines can genuinely understand or merely simulate human cognition. Yet, they approach this question from different angles with distinct implications. The Chinese room argument, or the CRA. Philosopher John Searle introduced the CRA to challenge the notion that symbolic processing, such as that in a computer, can lead to understanding or consciousness. Searle imagines himself in a room following a set of rules, a program, to manipulate Chinese symbols in response to input. Though he can produce appropriate responses, he does not understand Chinese. He merely follows syntactic rules without any comprehension of meaning or semantics. Searle argues that this lack of understanding shows that running a program, symbolic manipulation, is insufficient for true understanding or strong AI. According to him, computers that processes information syntactically, no matter how complexly, will never possess a mind or consciousness because they lack the semantic understanding that humans naturally have. The Turing test. Alan Turing proposed the Turing test as a criteria to judge whether a machine exhibits intelligent behavior indistinguishable from that of a human. In this test, a machine interacts with a human via text, and if the human cannot reliably distinguish the machine from another human, the machine is said to demonstrate human-like intelligence. So it is interesting that we are slowly coming into the debate between natural intelligence and artificial intelligence, or human-like intelligence. While the Turing test does not explicitly claim that machines passing it understand in the human sense, it suggests that behavior alone could be a sufficient criterion for intelligence. Turing's approach is more behaviorist, focusing on observable outputs rather than the internal workings or subjective experiences of the machine. The Turing test implies that if a machine behaves as if it understands, it might be pragmatically treated as if it does, regardless of whether it has subjective understanding. Now, let us do some comparison and contrast on the focus on understanding versus behavior. The Chinese Rome argument emphasizes the necessity of internal understanding, semantics, for true cognition, suggesting that mere simulation of intelligence is not equivalent to possessing it. In contrast, the Turing test focuses on behavioral output, where convincing interaction with a human is sufficient to attribute intelligence regardless of underlying processes. Now we are interested in discussing the philosophical implications of the CRA, or the Chinese room argument, and the Turing test. Searle's CRA asserts that functional processes alone cannot lead to understanding, reinforcing the view that cognition involves more than computation. The Turing test, however, implies that if an entity's behavior cannot be distinguished from a human's, it could be functionally treated as intelligent regardless of subjective awareness. So, the approach to AI and machine intelligence, the Chinese room suggests that artificial intelligence lacks genuine understanding, so it challenges strong AI, the view that a machine can truly think or understand. The Turing test aligns more closely with weak AI, which allows for machines to demonstrate intelligence functionally without requiring human-like subjective experiences or consciousness. Now, let us see in the modern context how has this debate gone. These arguments are increasingly relevant as AI models such as GPT continue to achieve impressive linguistic and problem-solving abilities. While such models may pass simplified Turing tests, critics argue that they lack the understanding, a concern at the heart of the CRA. The debate continues in contemporary philosophy of mind and AI ethics, with both perspectives influencing views on AI consciousness and machine rights. Thus, we can sum up by saying that the role of AI in understanding cognition has evolved significantly over the years, with major works addressing various dimensions of how machines simulate, support, or potentially replicate aspects of human thought. Key philosophical contributions in this area emerged from mid-20th century theorists like Alan Turing, who posed the famous Turing test, which asked whether a machine that behaves indistinguishably from a human in conversation could be considered intelligent. This foundational question sparked a wealth of debate, including challenges from later theorists like Searle's CRA argument that contended that mere symbol manipulation does not definitely equal understanding or consciousness, a critique central to debate on AI's cognitive limits. In subsequent decades, as AI capabilities advanced, thinkers such as Hubert Dreyfus and John Hogeland explored the ways machines might embody or fail to embody human-like cognitive abilities. Dreyfus argued that human intelligence is largely grounded in embodied, non-rule-based knowledge, which AI systems may find inherently challenging to replicate due to their reliance on explicit formal rules. We will be continuing with the subsequent philosophers of mind who have pioneered the entire AI debate, and we had just about started with Dreyfus. We continue further in our next lecture. Thank you so much.